Hi guys, welcome to today's episode. I'm going to talk about my finished WIP, my current WIP, and things that I learned along the way. So grab your fiber arts craft, grab your coffee, grab your tea, and let's get started. So this is the sweater that I knitted for my younger brother for Christmas. I'm wearing it because I know that I'm not going to get any pictures of him wearing it until after Christmas, and I wanted to show it to you guys so that you can see how it looks. So I will post a video of me wearing it so you can see the whole thing. And this is the Hands Thumb Sweater by Petite Knit. It is my first Petite Knit pattern, and what I really liked about her patterns is that she offers video tutorials on things that you may not know that you need to know for her patterns. So you can go on her website and you don't have to purchase the patterns to find the tutorials. But for example, if you wanted to make the Hands Thumb Sweater, you go under that pattern and there's a tab for video. And when you click on it, it shows all little tutorials that you need to know for the pattern. So there were a couple things that I learned how to make because of this pattern, or I learned how to do because of this pattern. So the first thing that I learned was how to knit the neck edge down. So the way that you do this is, let's say you need 10 rows for knitting. Then you'll put a marker at the 10th row, you'll knit another 10 rows, and then you'll fold that down, and then you'll like knit together these two edges, or these two like rows connected, and that's how you get this beautiful like thicker collar, which I really liked, and I may use in future patterns, like if the pattern doesn't call for it, like if it calls for just like a regular flat collar, I may do this if I like, now that I know how to make it. So that's the first thing that I learned. The second thing that I learned was how to M1R and M1L on the wrong side. I also learned how to avoid a hole when you are gonna connect the arms, like the next like sleeve, and you have to connect these two together. So there is no hole underneath, which I think is great because that's always been a little bit of an issue. So I now know how to avoid the hole. And I also learned how to double knit, which she asks for in the cuffs and the ribbing. So those are all the things that I learned on this pattern. I did not do the Italian bind off for this pattern. I was just a little bit over it towards the end. I wanted to be done with this project. It was taking me, I felt, a really long time. So I just wanted to be done. So I did not do that. I just did the regular bind off. I'm really happy with how this sweater turned out. I love like the creativeness, I guess, that I had to do because I was afraid of the yarn chicken. So I added in these stripes, which I am really happy with. And I had to figure out the math to do that. So this was a really fun like project in the sense that I had to work a little bit in figuring out how to avoid yarn chicken and how many rows I can knit with the stripes. So it turned out really great, and I think it's really nice, and I think my brother's gonna really love it. So I also wanted to calculate how much yarn I used. So I still have, I think, only one of the anti-hero yarn left. So I used around 786 yards for the anti-hero. And I used the Welcome to New York. I used 514 yards for the Welcome to New York, which is the blue stripe. I unfortunately don't have the calculations for the Coffee Toffee by Malabrio. When the lady at the store was winding up the yarn, there was issues with like the skein. I guess it was really tangled, and so she had to cut the yarn and split the balls in more than just one or two. So And I didn't weigh it before I started the project because I didn't think about doing this. So I don't have the calculations for this, but this was just 2 strands held together to make the stripes, and the stripes were only 2 rows per stripe. So in just this amount, it cost $178 in just the yarn for these 2 for this project, which I would say is not too bad since it's hand dyed and it's a large and it's a special gift for my brother. So I'm really happy with how the sweater came out. And I think that's all I have to say for this. I do have to correct myself. So in a previous video, I think I said that this was an extra large. It is not. It is a large. The other thing is, I think I misspoke or I did not convey correctly what I was trying to express. So I think in my last knitting podcast, I said, I don't know if I'm a quick knitter or if I just had a lot of time on my hands. And what I really wanted to say was, I don't think I'm a fast knitter. I just had a lot of time on my hands to be able to knit this rather quickly. So I started this project October 4th and I finished October 31st. So about a month, a little bit less than a month to knit this. And I would say that's pretty fast for a male large sweater. But it's not because I am a fast knitter, I just had a lot of time on my hands to be able to knit this quickly. So I just wanted to clarify that. And it actually brings me to another point, which I will now be recording the amount of time. Sorry, my dog's like wandering. I will now be recording the amount of time that it takes me to make a project. I think that that would give a more accurate depiction of how long a project actually takes me, rather than going off of days, because let's say you knit a pattern within 20 days, but on some days you were able to knit for 6 hours, and then on some days you were only able to knit for like 2 hours. So going off of days doesn't really give you an accurate representation of how long it takes you to knit a project. And I think from now on, I'll just time it. And that way I can tell you guys, like, roughly, maybe if you kind of knit the same speed as me, how long a project may take you. So I'll be doing that from now on. And I think that's all I have to say about this. I will now move on to my current WIP. So let me move this out of the way. So in my previous episode, I also talked about how my mom bought me this yarn from Rhinebeck and how I wanted to use this yarn to make the single malt sweater for my older brother. However, the yarn is not going to work for that pattern, so I bought more yarn. And I will show you the yarn that I'll be using. So this is the Juniper Moon Farm in the color Moonshine. And I think that my brother's gonna really like this yarn. It's a cream color like he wanted, and it's so soft. So unfortunately, I won't be able to use this one, but that means that I can use it for myself, which is great. So I will figure out what to make with this. If you guys want to offer any pattern suggestions, this is a light worsted weight yarn. And I have 780 yards, I think. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, that would be greatly appreciated. So I will show you my current WIP. So again, the single malt sweater. And this is what I have so far. This has taken me 17 hours to make so far. So just this section. So I think you can now have an understanding of that I am not a fast knitter whatsoever. So I have been having issues with this sweater. I've already had to frog twice. And it's not because the instructions are not clear or anything like that. It's just I thought so after the collar you start like the raglan, and I think I had like one extra stitch here, which I didn't think was a big deal. And so I just I counted it, I had one extra stitch, so I like knit it together. And that caused the rest of the pattern to be way off. It started to, instead of being kind of like a seed stitch, it started lining up. And so I didn't notice until about probably here. So I had to frog all of this because I didn't know how else to fix if the entire row was off. Like it would be ridiculous of me to go one by one by one. That seems like more work to me. So I frogged the entire thing, and then I figured it out. I got it done, and then when you're about to separate for the sleeves, I did not have what the measurement called for. I think the measurement called for 10 inches on the size that I'm making, and I had 9.5. So I did the size 1 and 2 extra like rows, and I wasn't paying attention to what row I ended on. And so when you have to separate for sleeves, it asked for like the following row to be all of a knit row, let's say, and it just threw off the pattern again. And so that was a disaster to like frog and figure out where I was when I frogged. Oh my gosh, that was such a mess. So I figured it out, I think, and I think I'm good. Now I will be paying attention to where I end up on what row I'm on, if I'm doing like a seed stitch row kind of, or yeah, because oh my gosh, that was so I should also pay attention to maybe I should mark as well where I ended on the sleeves so that I remember, because that'll probably be another thing when I go to start the sleeves, what row I'm on. So, but I am enjoying this. I just love the texture. Like, it just looks so pretty. And while I do hate, actually, not hate it, but while I do dislike seed stitching, like knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, the texture that comes out is just so nice. I really love it a lot. And I think my brother's gonna really like it. And I just can't help but like constantly be touching my project and looking at it. So I am so far happy with where I'm at. I just have to pay a little bit more attention to where I am. And I guess in past patterns, I've just been able to be like, oh, I'm just gonna knit these two together, or take one out, or whatever, or add one. And you're not able to do that with this pattern. So if you decide to make the single malt sweater, pay attention very closely, count all of your stitches, and pay attention to where you are in the pattern so that mistake doesn't happen to you. So the other thing that I also learned was that I was watching the Woolly Worker on YouTube, and she mentioned in one of her videos, she also knit the single malt sweater. And she says, oh, I have my notes on my Rivalry. And I was like, what is that? So I went onto her Rivalry, and I saw that she left like notes based off of like on what day what she did for this project. And, you know, if she used different needle sizes or if she used different yarn or whatever. I didn't know that that is what Ravelry is used for. So if you go onto Rivalry, you can also see other people who have made the single malt sweater project. And then you're able to see what they used, what they did, if they did something differently. So a lot of notes mention that they don't do the sleeves exactly to the pattern. They actually decrease at a different amount. So I'm gonna do that for this pattern. I just don't want the sleeves to be too tight. So I just thought that was so interesting. I didn't know at all that Ravelry is used that way. So one of the projects that I found where the person also did the single malt sweater, he or she said that they did this pattern in 47 hours. So obviously, I am not a fast knitter because this is taking me 17 hours and I just barely started the body. So all in all, I just want to say and clarify that I am not a fast knitter and that I just had a lot of time on my hands for me to finish this in less than a month. And I will now be recording my project times so that that could be more accurate. Okay, I think that that's all I have for today. It was a very short video. It's a little bit hard for me to find things to talk about when I'm a monogamous knitter, so I only work on one project at a time. And I've already showed you guys my yarn stash, so I won't have any new yarns to show you guys, and I'll just be focusing really hard on getting these projects done. So I've had 2 out of the 4 projects for Christmas gifts done. So I have my mom's vest and now my brother's sweater. I still have my other brother and my dad, so I'm currently working on my older brother's sweater. So 2 out of the 4 projects are done, and it is the month of November. So hopefully I can finish this by the end of this month and start my dad's sweater and then finish that before Christmas. So that will give me 25 days, or 24 days actually, to finish the sweater. Actually, it has to be before that because I have to be able to ship it. So, wish me luck on my Christmas gifts and see you guys on the next one. Bye!